Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Inshallah, you're doing well. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Today, I want to talk to you guys, and actually, I have a pencil and I'm taking notes because today we have Fareedah Shaheed. She's here as an online safety educator, and I know I had mentioned a couple weeks ago that all our kids are online, and there's just so many aspects of it. And today I want to talk about online gaming. Let me just do a quick intro, and then we're going to bring on Fareedah here. So Fareedah is a Forbes 30 Under 30 honoree and currently serving on the board on the Under 30 community for Forbes, and she has been named Cyber Personality of the Year in 2020, mashallah, and has been featured on Cisco, NASA, various stations at Fox and NBC, Yahoo Magazine, and so many other places, mashallah. And she has found the company Sakuva, where she taught thousands of people online safety and security. Her mission, which I love, is to help parents protect their kids online holistically. That means they're giving their kids the freedom they want and the safety that they need. And something that I love, which she really believes in, is the importance of empowering parents. So let's bring her up, inshallah. Let me invite her. Thanks for waiting. Okay, so we'll talk to her shortly. And just so you guys know, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. I'm putting the volume up so I can hear you.
How are you?
I'm amazing. How are you doing?
Good, good. I'm so excited that we get to finally talk.
I know. It's been so long.
I know, and your work is amazing. I've been following you and everything that you post about. What I really love, like I was just telling everybody, was that empowering parents with online security awareness, but focusing on building the relationship. Because I think a lot of times we think of online safety, it's like, okay, tell me what I need to do, and that's just going to keep them safe, and that's it.
Right, exactly.
So I love your approach, and I guess we can get started in just talking about, you know, I was really curious to know how you got into this. And one of the things that is different about you than other people is that you're like, I was a gamer. I am a gamer. I'm into games. So can we talk about that a little bit?
Yes, yes. I absolutely adore games. I love games. And sometimes I post content online, not sometimes, but when I post content online about online gaming, gaming safety, sometimes it reaches like the kid audience or the teen audience. And they'll like be on my post and they're just like, oh my God, gaming isn't bad. Stop doing this because my parents are going to like take away my game. And they don't realize that that's like, I absolutely adore gaming. And I want them to continuously do it in a safe environment. So I first got onto it when I was 13 years old. And that was when the first time I started gaming, I started talking to strangers, even though my mom had set me down and had that safety conversation. And she was like, no talking to strangers, especially not men. And I did the exact opposite. I was like, how can I play a game and then not talk to people? Like, I was a very curious person. I love speaking to people. I love understanding different cultures and dynamics, human behavior. Why do people think this way? So I would get into all sorts of conversations about every topic you can imagine around the sun. There's probably not many topics that I didn't talk about. It's like very few. And so that's where I got my experience in terms of just being online in chat rooms and voice chat. I didn't do video chats, but voice chats and text chats and just all of that.
Yes. Sorry. No.
Oh, you're good.
You know, he just asked me, he's like, can I play now? And I'm like, no. So it was perfect timing to ask.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. And you know, I was thinking about games, like when I played, maybe I played online, but it was so different. So here now, our kids are playing online, but it's not like solo. You know, they're playing real time with people and they're chatting, and there's, you know, there are different realms and there's different ways to play. And so it gets so lost, you know, I get so lost. So where would you say that is a good place to like start if you don't even know anything about today's gaming industry?
It depends on what type of games your kids play. So the younger they are, you want to stick to games that are very kid friendly. You don't want to put them on games that are for older teens and adults, because something's going to happen. If your kids are playing those games, something's going to happen. It doesn't mean it's catastrophic. So just because something happens, that something could just be a learning lesson. It doesn't have to be like the world is ending. I don't know, I'm a bad parent. I don't know what to do. That just means something happened. There's a lesson to be learned. How can I impart that lesson so that they know how to move forward even when I'm not there? Because the whole point of online safety is how can you protect your kids internally within themselves, so that when mommy and daddy and auntie and uncle or whatever school teacher, counselor, they're not watching, they're still doing the right thing. And of course, they're kids. Of course, it's a learning. We've done mistakes in our childhood too, so it's okay. So even as a parent telling your kid it is okay to make mistakes, at the end of the day, you want to make sure you're doing the right thing that we have taught in the house. Every family has different values, but most families, there's like a lot of foundational principles that go around for most families. So
my son, like for example, in my family, my kids play Minecraft. And what I didn't realize was that, first there's a single player, and then there's multiplayer, then there's different securities for different places that you play. You could play Bedrock, or you could play, it's not just like, okay, I'm playing Minecraft and everybody's playing the same Minecraft. There's just so many variations of it.
Absolutely.
And like I had told you yesterday, is that one thing that really helped was those conversations. And what kind of conversations can and should parents have about these kinds of games? And does it depend on the age? And I guess maybe like older, maybe 11 and up or 12 and up, what kind of conversations should we have?
Well, as soon as they start like touching the device, you want to have like very tiny conversations. So you could say if something pops up, then just tell mommy or let me know. Or if it goes to the next video, then let me know it's going to the next video. Of course, like if they can't communicate, then what you can do is like download a list of things you already approved of, so that even if it goes to the next video, you approved of everything. So I'm talking about YouTube now. But if they're really, really young, you can have like a Nintendo Switch that's really geared towards parents and younger kids. You can set things in the parental controls, and everything will be set up, and it's easier than, say, an Xbox, right? The Xbox is geared towards more older kids, even though a 9, 10-year-old will still be playing an Xbox. But the group is a little different. So when it comes to conversations, the first thing I always say is building that foundation of trust. Because no matter how many, we approach conversations a little bit differently, and sometimes we approach it in a way that doesn't lay the ground for holistic, real conversations. So typically the conversations go, don't do this, don't do that, and you do this happens, and this happens, that, and and so what we're doing is imparting all of our worries onto them. And they're just sitting there like, I don't care, I just want to play this game. Right? So how can you communicate with them in a language they understand? So giving them examples that will affect them. Sometimes things they don't understand it immediately, and it's okay. You just try your best. But they don't want their progress on the game to be lost. So you say, if you do X, Y, and Z, they can hack into your account. So if you give the password or you give too much information, they can get into your account, and you will no longer be able to play this game, and all of your progress and all of your points will be lost. Their head is going, oh, I don't want that to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
So they have an incentive to now listen to you because it matters to them. And you're not lying, because that's exactly what would happen. If you tell them, hey, if you're sharing so many details online, then many times these people will start stalking you. They'll start trying to figure out where you live, where you go to school. And a lot of people have had to deal with crazy things based off of what was said online. And those things can make them go, do I really want to share my full name? Do I really want to talk about my school? Those type of things. So number one is relating with them. And then number two is just building that trust. I mean, honestly, that's number one, building the trust and foundation. And the way to do that is understanding their world as they see it. So you're looking at the world typically, it's not all the time, but this is just a general rule that parents, when you're looking at the world, it's like, I want you to have fun, but I'm seeing all of these crazy things that are going on. And I really don't want you to have to feel that pain, and I don't want you to have to go through those type of stuff. Your kid is looking at the world like fun and friends and connections and and this is great and all these stars. So how can you connect their world and your world? So what you do is by understanding and listening to them and what they love about it. So you can have conversations. If they're playing the game, you can get curious about the game. If you have time, you can play the game with them. So that makes them feel like, oh, and in the case if you're the mother in the relationship, oh, mommy really understands. Ombi really gets it. She's like trying to understand. So when she says, hey, I don't want you to say X, Y, and Z when you're online, they're more likely to go, well, you know what? Okay, maybe I won't do that. Versus, oh, these games are stupid. It's a waste of time. They're making you dumber. You're not finishing your homework. What's going on?
Yeah.
It's like negative, negative, negative. And all they go is wall, 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 wall.
Exactly.
You say, I don't care.
Yeah. You know, something that I do is that, I don't want to sit there and watch them, right? I don't.
No.
But something that I do that helps is that I'll be in the same room with them. I'll be in the chair next to them reading my book and just looking up or asking questions here or there, and or saying, oh, what's that? And then they'll share with me. So one time my kids are talking, and another thing that I did is that because all the kids want to play, I said, okay, why don't I got them a server that they could play together in. So then, like the younger kids, sometimes they'll tell on their brother or they'll tell on the older ones. So that's perfect because I have all these eyes, watching everyone. They're all watching everyone. So if anything comes up, then they can come and talk to me about it. Or if I'm sitting next to them, they're having a conversation and I'm just like, what? And I'll give you an example. Yesterday, my daughter's like, yeah, we're playing with these friends who we don't really know. They're online friends of friends. So she says, not to me, but she just says in the car that, yeah, every time so-and-so curses, I just say astaghfirullah. And I was like, hold up. Okay, what? And then, I'm just like, what do you mean? Like, what do they say? And then my son chimes in and he's like, oh, you don't have this chat censor on. You should have that on because then it censors the word. And even if, some words, there's like the first letter and the last letter and asterisks in the middle. Yes. And he said that you can actually censor it to the highest level where it's all blurted out. So you won't even see anything.
That's true.
And then she was like, oh, I don't know how to do that. And then he said, oh, that's because you don't have this other program or whatever, the third party Lunar client. And if you have that, they actually have more plugins that you can actually have more security. And this is my 13-year-old telling the 10-year-old. So it really helped that my son knew that kind of stuff because I wouldn't have known. So and that was a conversation we were having, I had told you about yesterday, is that just giving my son the freedom, but I'm there with him, and that foundation of trust where we talk about these kinds of things and we know like what can happen. We can know what happens with random people and who are we talking to, what are we talking about. So that was really important. I saw like some of the fruits of that yesterday pan out because I can't keep track of all these different changes that happen.
You can't.
It is impossible.
It really is. Like, there's no way, like, even for me, there's no way that I can know every single game and every tiny little thing that you can do because there are millions, millions and millions of games. Someone will mention some obscure game and I'm like, I have never heard of that. Like, I have.
Or there are updates, right? There's upgrades, and then there's like some things that are defaulted to that, and you have to go in and then default. So it's hard.
Like, you'll have one setting and then, like you said, an update will happen and then it will change the update. And I'm like, there's no way that you can keep up with every single tiny thing. And that's why I look at basically the holistic, the real, the big picture of protecting your kids online. Because there is no way for you to be, especially if you're really busy, you're an entrepreneur, you're staying at home with your kids, you're trying to cook, clean, do all of this, take care of them, still be sane, like, and then you know every tiny little thing and every tiny little change.
Yeah.
Can do is if you you can sign up for updates from the game. So if my kids play this game and this game, sometimes they'll give you updates, but other times they won't. They'll just do whatever they could do. But most have like an official site. And so even in my programs, I take the official site and I give the direct support link, security link, safety links, reporting link, all of those type of things, because it can get really confusing. So you can just like a bookmark where all of the games your kids play, you can just be like, oh, I need that. I need to report someone. I need to block someone. How do I do that? But thankfully, typically these games now, if you're getting like a game that's like a pay to win free mobile type game, they're most likely not going to have all of the intricacies.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
bigger game, excuse me, the bigger the game is, the more likely they have better support for parents and more security controls, because they have like, you know, they have they're under a microscope all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think it's better, like if a lot of times kids would play a game, they'll just go on the computer on the internet and they'll play a game. And I tell parents that, you know, download, you know, go and buy it for $1.99 or whatever it is and download it versus just playing the online, because all those ads come up. And I've seen some of those ads and they're crazy.
Yeah, like not only do you have to think about security and safety, like you said, like the pop-up, and then sometimes it goes to a different site and then they're going here and there's a scam and you have a virus, but like you said, the advertisements could be like really highly inappropriate things. Like not, oh, this is a kid's site game, they're not going to have inappropriate advertising. No, they do. And they, unfortunately, pretty disgusting, but they're targeting young boys in particular with the type of advertising that they do. And they use cartoon characters and they make it very R-rated, X-rated type thing. Get young kids to click the thing. When you go in the game, most times it's not really like that. There's really nothing in there, but they're doing it to move the kids from that platform to the game. And then hopefully the kids will buy in-app purchases and rack up credit card charges on their parents.
Wow, that's crazy. Someone had a question. They're asking about Roblox. They have a 9 and 10-year-old. And is that what are some things that they should watch out for? Is that okay to play?
Oh, absolutely. I'm trying to go back to the comment. I don't know what Instagram did. I can't go back. Oh, I see it now. So I have a whole Roblox video. I have 2 Roblox videos on my channel, Fareedah. And so if you click the link in my bio, I have a Roblox video. But in terms of Roblox, there's like a couple things you want to think about. It really obviously is geared towards kids, and most of the audience, they're kids around like 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. But you want to make sure that you're looking into each game and what it actually entails. So what are the regular scams there? What are things that typically happen in the game? Is this a game where people are more like bullied than other games? You can settings and the security to say, hey, I'm going to turn off the chat. No one can talk to my kid unless they've friended them already, those type of things. So I would do that first, because Roblox has like, this is so many games. So you want to know in particular what game does your kid play or want to play, and then you move on. Because you need to know, there's so many games in Roblox, you don't need to know every single game. You just need to know what your kid is playing. And then you can connect. You can do a parent account and a kid account. It's like, it's the whole thing. Yeah.
But you know, one time I saw a YouTube video and I was watching it with my son. It was saying that how predators can come and talk to you on Roblox. And so they had one of the admins go ahead and just, you know, follow this whole conversation with somebody that they were having. And then, you know, obviously they were streaming it, or they had recorded it, so it was on YouTube. But it was just so scary, because sometimes, you know, things happen where it's like, okay, a random person, you're talking to a random person and you don't know. And especially if you're a child. And sometimes kids, and my kids, you know, one time did this, is that they didn't want somebody to know who they were. So they gave them a fake age, and it was like older than they were. And I'm just like, okay, that's even worse, you know? Maybe that person is, you know, wants to know. And so now you put 16 and then they're like, oh, perfect, when you're not.
Exactly. And sometimes you can just say, hey, I don't talk about my age. My age doesn't matter. Like that's neither here nor there. You don't need to know my age. We're playing. Finish this game. That type of information is not needed. Someone mentioned jailbreaking. You don't want to ever mess with your phone. Like as soon as you start messing with your phone and downloading weird apps, and you're starting to bring up your phone because you want to do some cool things with your phone, that's the moment that your phone is no longer secure and it's not safe. So don't do that. And parents, if you're looking to like monitor your kids or put parental controls, do not install random free apps. Don't do those type of things, because I always tell you, if you're monitoring your kids, chances are someone else is. You don't really know the company. I know people I've heard people tell parents to go and download random software to opt into the operating system of phones and computers to monitor their kids. And I'm like, that's a terrible idea. You don't know the developers of this. You don't know if they care about your kids' safety. This is just a person on the internet that made something that would completely destroy a phone and a computer. And it most likely has viruses. It has, I mean, don't do that. And honestly, what I like to talk about is a lot of times this type of activity comes from a lack of control inside. Like when we have to control every tiny thought, process, action, thinking of kids or other people outside of us, we're not healed internally. I'm not you wanting to know who your kid is talking to is crazy. I'm saying when it goes to the extreme, unless your kid has shown you that they're not trustworthy and you have to do other things, not install those things, do real like things that are reputable companies, that type of stuff. Then okay, you have to do what you need to do. But if you're so focused on the like all of the nitty gritty details and the change of the movement and the change of this and the change of that, you have to let go of that idea that you can control, because you can't. That will make you so mad as a parent, like anybody. You're gonna drive yourself insane trying to understand every tiny little nitty gritty detail. So let go of that as much as possible. And the best way to let go of that is to figure out why you're feeling that way. So like what happened in past relationships, what happened to you as a child. And I'm not saying that you're like a freak of nature, because you have that. We all have that. Like we're all going through a healing journey of figuring out. I'm like, to be completely vulnerable, right? I'm on a heart sabbatical. Like I am not talking to any men for marriage or whatever. I am like working on myself and my childhood trauma to understand why am I picking the men that I'm picking and why I'm doing what I'm doing. And that is necessary, whether it's your relationship with yourself, with your kids, with men, with people in general, is like, why am I acting this way? So as a parent, when we're talking about holistically protecting your kids online, that means, what do I need to do internally to work on myself? What is me as a kid continuously and consistently that has made me feel like I get upset or really frustrated when I see my kid do something, or I get really angry at them. That like
it's like a trigger response, right? Like you have to know your trigger responses and like why are you doing certain things, and it may be more to do with you than the child. Maybe that, you know, so sometimes we overcompensate or we undercompensate based on what happened to us, our experiences, and we want to protect our kids from that. And it's really because we wish somebody protected us from those things. And so I think, like you said, go inward and really find out like why are you getting mad? And that's a really perfect example, and something that has happened to me where I was really, really mad, and I was just like, okay, wait. And I'm talking to myself, you know, I'm saying, okay, what's really bothering you? Like, why are you so upset? And I said, because I grew up with younger brothers, and they would constantly be on the computer playing World of Warcraft, or, you know, just constantly. They were just like addicted. And I was just like, okay, and I don't want the same thing to happen to my kids. And so that was the reason why I was really like, time limits and things like that. And then I said, okay, they were on it. So why were they on it all the time? And then they have a different story, they had different parents. They had different things that their parents were doing, and a lot of times kids want to feel that autonomy when they're playing. And I totally realize this, is that when you're playing, and it's almost kind of like us when we're independent and we have our own homes and we live independently. After we live with our family, it's hard for us to go back and live at our parents' house, because then it's their rules and we've tasted that independence. We want, they say that you can only have one woman in the kitchen, and just like, because we have that autonomy to live our life. So our kids, they also want that. And in the game, no one's nagging them. They get to make their own choices. They don't have any worries, not the same worries. So there's a lot of freedom, and they don't have to worry about homework and somebody telling them what to do and nagging them, or just all the responsibilities. They can escape from that. And they could play in a world where there are friends, there are things that they want to do. So who wouldn't want to do that from time to time?
Exactly.
And so the goal, so then I realized, I was like, okay, he wants to play because he has freedom and he enjoys it. And of course, all that other dopamine hits and everything, but I'm just like, what can I do? So if I'm I can't compete with this, but what can I do where he has that same feeling, that same dopamine rush offline,
Exactly.
You know, so what am I providing for him? Because a lot of parents will be like, you know, I don't want them to be online that long. And I said, okay, what else should they do? And
Right.
it's like, yeah, that's what they asked me. What else is there to do, mom?
Yes.
And part of it is like, okay, you can give them choices, but they can also say no to that, and it's okay to be bored. Because our job isn't to entertain them the whole time, you know, and it's okay to be offline. And also because a lot of times those kids, when you talk to them, and I'm sure you hear this a lot too, that, well, my parents are always on their phone anyways. Their parents are on devices. So it's kind of like, okay, what can you do now? You know? So I think for me, it's like creating those experiences offline. That has helped a lot. And in our house, there's a time like from 5 to 7, no one's on any device. Not me, not my husband. I don't even pick up my phone. We're not touching our device. We're totally offline. So then they see us also. Like now we have to play a board game. Now we have to read. Now we have to do whatever. And they've adapted to the change faster than me and my husband.
Wow.
So it's really working out great. But again, going back to gaming, one of the questions that somebody else asked is that which games do you suggest for under 11? And I think you mentioned that, right? Like Mario Kart, things like that.
Yep, yep. And Nintendo Switch, they have like a bunch of games inside of there that's great for under 11. And then
Yeah.
I have like a safer games guide. And just message me or just go into my link in bio. The second link is the
Yeah.
safer guide, and that will give you like all of the games. I will have to say that the safer games guide is not going to work for every family because
Yeah.
sometimes they're like, oh, well, I didn't like this particular game. You listed this game. Something
Yeah.
happened. I didn't like it. It's not going to work for everyone. So, but I did give you all of the things that you need to see to make your decision. So I gave you the ratings of the games that they have, gameplay to see what does the game actually look like. You can actually go through a video on YouTube. I didn't make the video on YouTube. I just linked it because I thought it was a great game video. So you can, characters look like diverse enough. Does it have things that'll be too scary for my kid? Whatever your family values the most, look through it, and then you see if it's good. Because some games are good. You may want something.
Or they may get bored of one game and they're like, okay, I don't like that. And
Yeah.
also, you don't have to play these games.
No.
And also providing lots of alternatives as well as knowing your child. And I think you talk about that, like that foundation of trust, having that good relationship with them. And a lot of times parents will use the game as like like hanging the carrot. Like, okay, if you do all of this, you get this, or I'm going to take it away and use it as a bargaining chip.
Right.
And then if something comes up, sometimes the kids are not going to tell their parents.
No.
You know, they're scared that they're going to get in trouble. It's going to get taken away. So they're not going to, want to come to us. And that's not really the holistic approach. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is what you do. So in terms of like parenting and helping parents in that way, you're absolutely correct. Because if you're using it, you have to, there's a balance. You can say, hey, I would like you to finish your homework or X, Y, and Z before you get on the game. But if you start the game as like you said, I'm going to take it away if this happens or this happens, and that will create, unfortunately, an environment where they go, if something happens to the game, no way are they telling you. It will not, they will, if they tell you, that's a miracle, okay? Like, thank God they told you. But most the kid will not tell you anything because they don't want you to take it away, because they value that connection. Like you said, that's a freedom, that's autonomy. Another thing is connection, community, belonging. The biggest thing that we all want as human beings is to believe that, one, we're enough, and then second, that we belong. And so having these sadness feelings is a disassociation between we're either not getting what allows us to feel safe and secure and enough and belong. And so we start those negative reactions and we want to escape. So they're using the game as a means to create community. So if you're taking away their sense of community, and
what are you providing in space?
Right. No alternative. There's not like, hey, we're going to go to a program for preteens to connect with other teens, and you took the game, but you took it away because you knew that was not good for their mental health, and you're giving them an alternative, then we're good. We're on the path to great. Like, we're really good. But if it's take it away, and then they're just like, you're staring at them, they're staring at you, it's like, okay, next, like, what's going to happen? So
exactly.
I'm not saying that you are going to know exactly what to do every time, but you want to think about, okay, what am I going to do? What's the ramifications of me taking this away?
Someone asked a question. I got a son who has always wanted to play games. He is 6 years old. I got a math app, and he's so excited to play that. It's basically math questions, and he spends about 30 minutes a day.
That's great. I mean, from what I see, I don't know. Like, yeah, there's
Mhm.
keys and exactly what and all that. But yes, I mean, that's amazing. 30 minutes a day, a math game. Obviously, 6 years old is really young, so you decided to do something that works for your son and what works for the
Mhm.
spending online, and that's a
Yeah.
great way to spend it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the child
Yep.
and, what else he's doing besides that. And is there a connection? Is it just because, okay, you know what, or is it like a reward, or is it just part of the routine? And so, yeah, really depends on the child, because some kids, after they get off the game, they'll have a tantrum, or some kids, they're able to handle it more, so just providing the other stuff that they need. Before we leave, I would love for you to talk about what you offer, because this is what you do, online safety. And because of all the different changes, and there's different games, different versions, updates, what we were talking about earlier, it's hard to keep up. I mean, parenting without anything online is already tough.
Yeah.
And add that in there, and we can't do it all alone.
No.
And we don't have to, you guys. No one has to do anything, all of this alone. And so can you please talk about your program and what you offer and the
Absolutely.
community that you have?
And I want to answer Yvonne Kalu's statement right there. She said she's questioning, is that a lot for a 6-year-old to be on the app that long? I would say the younger they are, there's a lot of studies that the screen time does matter, but what they're doing and how you're engaging with them in the screen times matters more than the amount of time. So when they're 6 years old and there's 30 minutes online, if you're using, say, 5 to 10 minutes of that 30 minutes and you're asking them questions about what they're seeing and you're engaging with them, so it says, plus 6 equals what? And you see that and they're playing, you go, okay, what do you think 6 plus 6 equals? And then you're having that discussion, so they're understanding that what they're seeing applies to real life and they're connecting with you. Then that's a better use of screen time. Now, of course, it's like 3-4 hours and they're just looking at it and there's no engagement, there's no like activity in the brain, they're just like as a zombie staring at it. Then obviously that will be detrimental to their health in the long term. If you have, typically the screen time conversation, and I will do it really, really quickly, there is a lot of privilege involved with it, because a lot of parents, you're not going to have the time to be able to engage every single second or have a different activity, especially in the pandemic. So the results about screen time changes, and why kids use screen time changes depending on the demographic and the amount of time, amount of help, and amount of care that the parent is giving. Because a lot of parents don't have daycare, they don't have childcare, especially in the pandemic. They don't have a family member to take care of their kid, so they will have to run something really quickly. So you have to balance out between your mental health, your kids' mental health, and other activities, and don't stress yourself out about all of the exact tiny little things, because there's a lot of comes to this topic.
Yeah, exactly.
So you told me to talk about my program. I think that's
community.
I want to mention that because I know that's like a big thing, the screen time and that type of stuff. But speaking of screen time and all the intricacies, that's what I go into in the Safe Kids Movement. So if you go to safekidsmovement.com, or if you go to my link in my bio on Instagram, Fareedah, that first link, literally you click the link in my bio, the first link, it says you need support with Protect Your Kids Online, something of that sorts. You click that. That is the Safe Kids Movement, and that is a movement of parents that are learning holistic online safety. They're discovering it, and they're inputting those type of things into their family's online safety plan to protect your kids online. And the main thing is, how do you protect your kids online while cultivating a stronger relationship with your kids, so that even when you're not watching, your kid is still practicing online safety as much as possible. That is the main foundation of the entire movement. Yes, I will have tutorials on turning on parental controls and what apps to use and what games are safer. It's also highly customizable. So just recently, I mentioned this is like a month ago now, but a parent was looking through the modules and they have teens, so they don't have younger kids. And they're like, hey, Fareedah, you're a gamer, you've been online, you're also a cybersecurity professional, this is what you do professionally. Can you talk to my teens about staying safe online? Because I keep talking to them, but it's like in one ear, out the other, whatever, saying that. She said, look, if you were to make videos for my teens and talk to them, they will listen to you more, because they'll find it more cool. Even though I told them to listen to you, they'll do it. So I made an module for teens on
Nice.
protecting online, what to do with cyberbullying, how to set up your profile, how to think about social when you're gaming online, when you're talking to a stranger, what happens, what you do, all of those type of things in my own voice, talking to them, just me and the camera, and very short clips for each topic. So it's not like 30 minutes long. It's it's typically like 5 minutes. And so that first link in bio, that's where it is. And it's like a whole movement. And
yeah, I love that.
If you have any questions about it, just DM me. Like, I'm literally available most of the time, not all the time.
Yeah. You have boundaries. Thank you so much, because this has been on my mind, and just because my kids play too, and I want to have that holistic approach that you talk about, and it's comforting to know that there's somebody else who's doing that part, who's lifting some of the weight with you. Especially because we have so many other obligations, and we can't know every single nitty-gritty part of it, and some of us may not know the tech part that well. And so the modules that you have, they have various things where it talks to teens, but it also has on how to put on parental control, which is perfect. This is exactly what I think most parents definitely should do and they need, and it's available. So thank you so much, everybody. Check out the website, check out the links, and even the posts that you have, they're so informative. And I really appreciate you, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. I mean, I really enjoyed this conversation. You're awesome. And just thank you so much for having me and being so gracious. I appreciate you.
Thanks, everybody. And of course, if you have any questions, you can email, DM either one of us. And we all have the same goal, right? We all want to see our kids in general, all kids, be safe online and have and us be able to instill our values, but still give them freedom. And that's exactly what you do. So, it's perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I appreciate you.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody.
Alaikum salam.
Assalamu alaikum.